Family said I was nothing without them. I proved I was everything without them. They told me I'd be nothing without them. No support. No success. No future. And for a while, I believed them. But sometimes, when the ones who are supposed to lift you only weigh you down, you have to learn to fly alone. My name is Lena, and this isn't a revenge story. It's a story about rising in the silence they left behind. Have you ever been told you couldn't make it without someone, only to thrive because you did? Tell me in the comments. And stay with me, because what happened next changed everything. Let me take you back to the moment they let go of me, and I let go of needing their permission. Part 1. The day they walked away. They say rock bottom is loud, but mine was quiet. No slamming doors. No dramatic goodbye. Just a single sentence that landed like a slow, cold knife. If you're going to live like this, you're on your own. That's what my father said over breakfast, not looking up from his coffee. My mother didn't disagree. She just moved the butter closer to her toast and kept eating like nothing had cracked open inside me. I was 22. No degree. No high-paying job. Just a laptop with a cracked screen. A dream I couldn't fully explain. And this gnawing hunger to build a life that didn't look like anyone else's in our family. My sister was already a lawyer. My brother was in med school. Me? I was taking design gigs on Fiverr and working evening shifts at a diner that smelled like burnt fries and broken ambition. But I wasn't lazy. I wasn't lost. I was just different. And different didn't fit into their mold. So I nodded, stood up, and said nothing. No tears. No tantrum. Just a quiet exit. I packed what little I had into 2 bags and left the house I grew up in, left behind their approval, their expectations, and maybe even a little piece of myself. That night, I moved into a studio apartment the size of a storage unit. The rent took nearly everything I had. The kitchen sink dripped. The heater coughed instead of working. And the walls were thin enough to hear every argument from the couple next door. But it was mine. I sat on the floor surrounded by boxes that still smelled like my childhood bedroom, and stared at the ceiling. I wasn't scared. I wasn't even angry. I was raw. A little hollow. But underneath it all, something inside me whispered, if they can't see your worth, you'll have to see it yourself. So I lit a candle, opened my old laptop, and started working. Not on a client project. Not on a job application. I started working on me. It's funny. The people who are supposed to love you the loudest are often the first to go silent when you take a different path. Maybe you've felt that too, where your dreams don't fit neatly into the family scrapbook, so they pretend you're just going through a phase. If that's ever been you, drop a comment. I really want to hear your story, because I know how isolating that silence can feel. The first week in that apartment was hard. I didn't know how to budget well. I lived off instant noodles and black coffee. I cried when I missed a freelance deadline. And I questioned everything, every choice, every step. But every night, I reminded myself, you left the nest. Now build your wings. I started waking up earlier than I needed to. I made my bed, even if no one would see it. I kept a notebook where I wrote down tiny wins. Sent a proposal. Got a like on a post. Finished a course. Didn't give up. Some nights I'd look at my phone and feel the ache of not getting a single text from home. No, how are you? No, we miss you. But then I'd hear that whisper again. You're not building this life for applause. You're building it for peace. And slowly something shifted. I began to enjoy the stillness. I started setting goals, not to prove anything to them, but to prove everything to myself. I wasn't chasing approval anymore. I was chasing alignment with who I was, who I could become, and what I deserved. And that, right there, was the real beginning. The moment I stopped waiting for them to come around and started coming home to myself. Now let me ask you something. Have you ever had a moment where you realized you had to choose you, even if it meant walking alone? I'd love to hear what helped you take that first step. Drop a comment below. Your story matters. Because what came next? Well, that's where the fire started. Because when no one's cheering for you, you have to learn to clap for yourself. And that's exactly what I did. Part 2. Quiet hustle, loud heart. You know that moment when silence is no longer scary, but sacred? That was me. In a tiny apartment with nothing but a flickering desk lamp, a second-hand laptop, and dreams that felt too big for my space, but just right for my heart. My internet barely worked. The walls were thin. The heating was inconsistent. But I had time. And time, I would learn, is the most generous currency. I started small. Really small. Designing birthday flyers for neighbors. Writing Instagram captions for local dog groomers. I offered to update menus for cafes in exchange for coffee. I didn't care if the job was glamorous. I just needed experience. And more than that, I needed proof that I could turn what I loved into something that could sustain me. I made mistakes. I misspelled a business name on a digital banner once and stayed up all night fixing it, terrified they'd ask for a refund I couldn't afford. I cried over unpaid invoices. I panicked when I sent out cold emails and got nothing but silence. But I never let that stop me. Every night, after sending off deliverables and eating whatever leftovers I could afford, I'd open my laptop and study. Free webinars, blog posts, YouTube tutorials on branding and copywriting and client management. I took notes in a recycled notebook and practiced redesigning fake brands just to see if I could. I taught myself to hustle not loudly, but with heart. Then one day it happened. A woman named Michelle from a local boutique reached out. She said she'd heard about me through another client I'd done work I'd barely charged for. Michelle wanted a full rebrand. Logos, messaging, everything. I quoted her $250, almost afraid to say the number out loud. She said yes. And when that payment hit my account, I didn't celebrate with champagne or new clothes. I sat on my floor, right next to the radiator that didn't work, and I cried. Not because I was struggling, but because finally I was being seen. Someone valued what I brought to the table. Someone believed in me enough to pay me. That was the moment something in me shifted. From then on, I stopped doubting the path I was on. I knew it wouldn't be easy, but it was mine. The kind of path you build while no one's watching. The kind paved with sweat, humility, and the quiet kind of grit that doesn't ask for permission. Clients started coming through word of mouth. A yoga studio, then a food truck, then a family-owned florist. Each one added a piece to the foundation I was building. I started learning how to set boundaries, how to write contracts, how to raise my rates with confidence. And still, I told no one in my family. Not because I wanted revenge, but because I was finally building something that didn't depend on their validation. Their silence no longer stung. It just confirmed that I was growing beyond the version of me they thought they knew. Let me ask you something. Have you ever chased a dream no one clapped for? Have you ever had to be your own cheerleader, your own coach, your own safety net? I'd love to hear what kept you going when applause wasn't there, because I know those stories are often the most powerful ones. Drop a comment. You never know who might be inspired by your resilience. My quiet hustle became my greatest teacher. It taught me discipline, focus, patience. It taught me that even when no one's watching, your effort still counts. That you don't need applause to make progress. You need consistency, belief, and the willingness to show up over and over again. But just as I started feeling steady as my calendar filled, my confidence grew, and the fear began to fade. Life, of course, had another test waiting for me. I opened my inbox one evening, tea in hand, ready to shut down for the night. And there it was. A message that made my stomach flip. A familiar name. A surname I hadn't seen in months. My cousin, reaching out with a subject line that read, "Quick favor." And just like that, everything I had built was about to be put to the test. Because success feels sweet, but it hits different when the ones who doubted you come knocking. Stay with me. Part 3. The message from home. It was a rainy Tuesday when the message came through. The kind of day where the sky feels heavy and the coffee never quite wakes you up. I had just wrapped a call with a client and was about to dive into a branding proposal when I saw it. A name I hadn't seen in over a year. My brother. Just seeing it made my breath hitch. I stared at the screen like it might vanish if I blinked. The message was short. "Hey, Mom's business is in trouble. She needs help with her online stuff. You still do marketing, right?" I didn't reply right away. I just sat there, phone in hand, letting the irony settle in. A year ago, they said I'd never make it. That I was nothing without them. And now here they were reaching out not with an apology, but a request. I won't lie. My first instinct was to ignore it. Or worse, type something I'd regret. But something in me had shifted since the last time we spoke. I wasn't the same Lena who left with her heart in pieces and a suitcase of self-doubt. I had built something slowly, painfully, but mine. So I wrote back. What kind of help do you need? The reply came fast. Too fast. A list of problems. Their website was outdated. Social media was dead. Sales were dropping. My mother, once so proud of her independence, was overwhelmed. And for the first time in my life, they weren't offering advice. They were asking for mine. I agreed to a call. The next day, I logged into a Zoom meeting, heart pounding. When the camera came on, there she was. My mother. Hair pulled back, face tired, voice uncertain. She didn't start with small talk. Just, thank you for doing this. I nodded, professional. Come. Let's take a look at what's not working. As we talked, something strange happened. The power dynamic flipped. I was no longer the lost one. I was the expert. I knew what I was doing. I outlined a plan: new branding, SEO fixes, Instagram content strategy. She took notes. She listened. And not once did I hear, "Are you sure that's a good idea?" The call ended with a quiet, "I'm proud of you." Not loud. Not dramatic. But enough. Over the next few weeks, I rebuilt her online presence. Orders picked up. Customers returned. She emailed me updates like I was her consultant, not her daughter. And in a way, that was healing. Because I wasn't just fixing her business, I was repairing a piece of myself. And then came the referrals. My aunt. My cousin. A friend of the family. All suddenly needing a bit of help online. It was like once they realized I had value, they couldn't stop passing my name around. But here's the thing: I didn't say yes to everyone. Because I wasn't desperate to prove myself anymore. I had already done that. Quietly. Consistently. While no one was watching. Some I helped. Others I gently declined. And through it all, I reminded myself, I don't owe anyone redemption. My worth doesn't increase with their recognition. Still, one night after wrapping up a logo design, I sat on my couch and cried. Not because I was sad, but because I realized I was free. Free from needing their approval. Free from shrinking myself to fit their expectations. I wasn't building a life to show them I could. I was building it because I deserved to. Have you ever had someone doubt your path, only to come knocking when you found your way? Did you help? Did you walk away? I'd love to hear your take. Drop it in the comments below. I read every single one. Because here's the truth. Sometimes the people who push you out are the same ones who come back when they realize you were never the problem. You were the proof. And just when I thought the circle was complete, I got invited to speak at a conference. I almost said no, until I saw the guest list and recognized a name sitting in the front row. Part 4. The stage they never expected me on. I've spoken in quiet rooms before. Coffee shops, co-working hubs, online webinars. This was different. This was an auditorium filled with women founders, creators, and visionaries, all gathered under one roof, waiting for someone who had once thought she'd never make it. I was nervous, but something deeper steadied me. Purpose. Presence. Power without performance. Walking out onto that stage, the spotlight warming my face, I scanned the crowd. And their front row, center, my parents. Not by my invitation. By the invitation of the organizers who'd seen my name and assumed they belonged. Maybe I didn't belong there once, but now I did. And they were the first to find out. My heart squeezed, but I breathed steady. I began. Thank you for being here. Thank you for showing up, for yourselves, and for the people who said you couldn't. The room was silent and warm. Not quiet. Engaged. I told the story they already knew. The cracked laptop, the ramen dinners, the rejection letters. But this time, I added new chapters: my first freelance paycheck, the small bakery that believed in me, the cousin who came asking for help, the conference where they sat in the front row. I paused when I reached the part about them. You see, resilience isn't something you build by proving someone wrong. It's something you build by proving yourself right. They listened. And more importantly, they saw. By the time I closed with, "You don't have to be loud to plant loud roots," the applause wasn't polite. It was real. A full-body cheer from women who believed in what I represented. Afterward, the organizers announced a meet and greet in the back. I stepped off stage, and there between the introductions my mother waited. Her eyes were wet. Not because she was sad, but because she was seeing me. Really seeing me. I said softly, "Mom." She touched my arm. "I'm so proud of you." Tears pooled in her eyes. But I held mine steady. "I didn't come this far so you'd say that," I replied. "I came this far because I had to." It wasn't an apology. It was a bridge. Because her words, while late, carried weight the second time around. That moment held something I had never felt before: closure without confrontation. Validation without performance. But this wasn't just about reconciliation. It was a statement. I was no longer the girl they dismissed. I was the woman leading rooms, building teams, creating impact. I walked through my own meet and greet, greeting women who thanked me for sharing my story. Some hugged me and whispered, "Your story is my story." Others asked for advice. A few asked for mentorship. And my heart expanded because this was more than my success. It was a ripple. At one point, someone introduced herself as a journalist covering personal journeys. She asked if I'd mind an interview. I agreed, again not to prove anything, but because it aligned with my purpose, to show what can come from quiet resolve. Later that night, my father pulled me aside in a quiet hallway. He didn't immediately speak. He swallowed, cleared his throat, and said, "I didn't understand before. But I do now." For a moment, I saw my father not the silent doubter, but the cautious parent. Fearful maybe, but now curious. I nodded. No words needed. My journey spoke louder. That night, I didn't sleep thinking of applause from them. I thought of gratitude for the journey, the lessons, the silence that taught me to speak. I thought of the woman I became, the one who didn't ask for permission. So I ask you now, have you ever had to reclaim your narrative in front of people who once wrote it for you? Did you find forgiveness? Closure? Strength? Drop your story in the comments. We rise when we share these moments together. Because this stage wasn't just a platform. It was a milestone. But it wasn't the end. They sat in the audience asking, "Do you really need this pain to succeed?" I found out. But here's how the story continues. But here's what I want you to know: this story was never about them. It was about reclaiming the narrative they once wrote for me and authoring my own. Have you ever stood face to face with someone who once underestimated you? Did you say something? Did you stay silent? What would you say if they finally looked you in the eye and saw you not as they imagined, but as you truly are? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear your moment. The one where the room that once ignored you had no choice but to listen. Because the truth is, sometimes the best apology is your quiet success. No fanfare. No revenge. Just growth. Just grace. And that's the funny thing about full circles: they don't just close chapters. They open new ones. Let me tell you how this one ends and why it's really just the beginning. They said I was nothing without them. But they were wrong. I became everything they said I couldn't be and more. Not to prove them wrong, but to prove myself right. If you've ever had to rebuild alone, if you've ever felt underestimated, I see you. And I want to hear your story. Like, comment, and subscribe to NA Family Story, where stories of strength rise from silence, and quiet voices speak the loudest.